Hi everyone and welcome to the Albion Saddle Makers YouTube channel. I'm Charlotte, the social media manager here at Albion, and I'm so excited to announce that once a month we're going to be putting out a new video for you guys to enjoy. This month's video has a strong focus on leather, so Kath and Het are going to talk through the importance of the leather we use in your Albion saddles. We're also going to be sharing with you some clips from Kath and Paul's trip to Spoga, as well as some saddle fittings with Sophie for our brand ambassadors and influencers.
So this is a big trade fair in Germany, and Paul and I are on the trip to Spoga Horse. Look who I've spotted at Spoga.
So far, the strategy went very well.
So I'm here today on Emil's yard. Last time I was here was 4 months ago, so we're just doing some routine checks on the saddles. The horses, as you know, vary from young horses all the way through to Grand Prix, so we'll go and have a little look and see what needs to be done.
We are going to talk to you today about the leather that we use in our saddles, why we choose it, and what it means to the quality of the saddle. I brought Het along to talk to us about leather as well, as Het knows everything there is to know about an Albion saddle and has worked for the company for how many years now?
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot. About 16, 17 years?
I think one of the things that was really good about Albion saddles is obviously the longevity of the saddle.
Yeah.
And that is purely down to the quality of the leather that we buy. And it's very easy to be sort of suckered into something that will feel very soft and sumptuous and beautiful to the hand, feel straight away. And then you won't necessarily get the longevity out of it. And we've all had it with shoes. For an example as well would be on riding boots. That you've got your riding boots, you ride in with them all the time, or your half chaps, but eventually where your calf is, you'll go through that leather. Now the thing is with the riding boots, they can't have the same thickness of leather that's required for a saddle to give it the same longevity, but it is that very soft thing. And one of the things that we sort of always feel like we're beating our drum about is looking after your saddle, because of, as you rightly said, your example of your leather sofa at home and a cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, people don't necessarily think about their saddle in a way that they've got to care for it, because a saddle lives in a tack room, it goes on an animal, it gets ridden in the rain, and then the next day, great British weather, it's in the sunshine, and so getting wet and then drying out too quickly makes it really brittle and hard. But you wouldn't necessarily treat your saddle like you would treat your sofa, and if you drop a cup of tea on a sofa, oh my gosh, everything comes out, and the cloths and then the sofa cleaner and everything else. Whereas your saddle is potentially put on 10 horses a day if you're in a big yard, and really ridden in, and sometimes you have to, we get them back in the factory and they have been used and abused, and it's amazing how well that the leather actually has stood up to all of the elements. And also, you've got to look at what materials are being used against the saddle. So as you said, yeah, riding boots, there's all different types of leather, not necessarily leather, synthetic materials that are used against the flaps, and breeches as well. So there's all different types of breeches with the silicone seats now, the different leather cleaners, girths put over saddles. So there's a lot of different elements that do come into play.
And I think when we go to our leather suppliers, they all supply leather for all sorts of other industries, and they do say that the equestrian industry, to supply the leather for it, is the most difficult, and it's like you say, it's those elements and then that wear and the strength of riders that we use. So we always will use a whole grain leather, and that's the most important thing to use. And we use two different types of leather. We use a hide, which is this soft leather, and we'll use a solid. So a hide wrapped saddle will generally just be the hide wrapped around a solid. But the leather does react in all sorts of different ways as a natural material. And we mustn't forget as well that the leather has been on a cow in the field. So when we look at it, to get a completely unscarred piece of leather is impossible. It just doesn't happen. The animals grow, they get growth marks. So when the saddlers are putting on saddles, they make sure that the growth marks will go in the same direction of the seat. And they won't feel that sometimes until they really stretch out the leather to see what's going on. But we've got an example here actually of this saddle. So this is a K2 that is 18 years old. Now it's without its panels because it's come back in for some work. But the key thing here is to sort of show you that this saddle has been looked after. And look at these flaps, there's little wear. You can see obviously it's well worn, but there's no chance of you going through these flaps on this leather. Now if you take that example versus the riding boot of this right-handed rider, you can see very clearly that that is going to eventually wear out and there will be a hole in that boot, whereas that saddle, there's no chance of there ever being a hole in it. So we'll have riders with William Fox Pitt, Emile Barry. They're strong riders and their saddles have been on their yards for years. Of course they'll need to, over time, there's maintenance, and I think that's another key point.
It really is
maintenance.
Saddles, yeah. Whether it's straps, flocking, stitching, all of the stitching needs checking regularly, and the straps need checking for any cracks, whether the holes are stretched, anything like that. It really is important to do.
We say get the saddle fitter in every 6 months to check your saddle on the horse, but when your saddle fitter comes in, they check for all of the other bits and pieces on your saddle that you could easily miss. So it is so important to keep your saddle regularly serviced. That is key, because that 18-year-old saddle will have had to have new girth straps on it. That will be without question because of the wear and tear on it. Another key element we've done as well to give newer saddles even more longevity, all hide wrapped saddles will have a wear strip on them. It just gives that extra reinforcement through that solid to look after the flaps for you. Our key point that we want to say is look after your saddles. They're so important. You spend so much time choosing them, deciding what's right, what feels right. You invest a lot of your own money into them. So look after them, just think about the care, and if at all possible, try and keep them in a tack room during the winter that doesn't get very damp and cold, so it gives everything just the best chance.
The one thing I would say about this saddle is it desperately does need a little bit of nourishment. So I'm just treating it with our balm. So our balm is our conditioner. You can see what a difference that makes straight away. And this will soften the leather, and we recommend you use this maybe not more than once a week, because it will, if you overuse it, it will take the rigidity out of the leather and it will go too supple, too floppy. So on a daily basis, you can use our soap, and that is designed to be used every day, and this is the conditioner. But what a difference that makes. Looks like a new saddle again.
It's very important as well to make sure that you check the ingredients of your soap, your saddle soap and your balm, and you must make sure it's compatible for aniline leather. Obviously the Albion soap and balm is perfect for our saddles, but if you use the wrong piece of tack cleaning equipment, it can strip the colour out of the saddle as well. So that concludes us for this month. We hope you've enjoyed what we've had to say, and we will, like I said at the beginning, be making a vlog for you every month in the life of Albion and what we're up to.